Hello and welcome to another edition of The Slice. Here on The Slice we talk about everything from ancient alien theory to extraterrestrial visits in the future, past, and current. We also talk about abductions and other interesting items of archaeology, out-of-place artifacts. Make sure you check out Matthew Bauer's site on www.therealmj12eyes-to-the-sky.com, and also check out Clarence Mitchell with his Blog Talk Radio, and Kimberly Wright with her Ancient Aliens Chat every Friday night during the show, before the show and after the show. So make sure you check all that out. And now let's get on with this week's subject on The Slice. Enjoy the show, folks, and make sure you comment and subscribe. Take care now. Today we're going to talk about the discovery of S.A. Jordan and G.E. Kincaid. Now, I've noticed a lot of websites and YouTube videos talk about this discovery, and they mistakenly say Professor this and G.E. Kincaid. Jordan and Kincaid were prospectors. They were buddies from in Las Vegas, and they were prospectors. So Kincaid was prospecting and brought Jordan along to this thing that he found on the in Marble Canyon. Now, this is not the same cave system at all that John Wesley Powell was talking about in the Smithsonian expedition. These guys were completely separate. I don't know why it keeps getting reported as they reported it to the Smithsonian, but when they sent Powell out, he found something different. Now, this was a story on the front page of the April 5th, 1909 edition of the Arizona Gazette, and it recounted the discovery of a series of bizarre caves and artifacts in the Marble Canyon region of the Grand Canyon. Now, the report also claimed that two Smithsonian-funded archaeologists, Professor S.A. Jordan and G.E. Kincaid, are responsible for the find. They were not professors from the Smithsonian. I think they may have told the reporter that to keep people off their backs so that nobody tried to take their find. I don't know. But discoveries almost conclusively prove that the race which inhabited this mysterious cabin were maybe the Toltecs, or a pre-Egyptian society. Now, interestingly enough, the Toltec culture, which somehow became the Hopi and some of the Navajo, I guess, they're arguing about this apparently, kind of like the Jews and the Christians. I don't know. But it could be possibly Oriental origins, possibly from Egypt, supposedly tracing back to Ramses. Now, if their theories are borne out by the translation of the tablets engraved and the hieroglyphics, then we'll know where a lot of the different looks from North America come from that don't match up with others that supposedly came over the land bridge. Now, that would explain a lot of the differences in the cultures and what their bone structures are for their faces and stuff. The interesting part is that the Colorado River will be linked by a historical chain that runs back to an age which staggers the mind, millions of years, really, if you want to get going on it. Later in that same article, a cross-legged idol resembling Buddha is described, along with a large tomb filled with mummified humans, a veritable mashup of Egyptian and East Asian cultures. A dangerous region indeed. We're going to see some pictures of this here in a minute. Very interesting. It does make perilous traveling, but expeditions back in that day by private collectors and universities went forward, and they noted that the cavern's entrance was 1,500 feet down a cliff, but there's a stairway on that one that goes up to it, but it's pretty dangerous. You got to use pitons and stuff. We can overcome that, though, I think. Conspiracy theorist John Rhodes claims to know the exact location of this. He says it's guided by a lone soldier carrying an M16, and that the cavern's, let's see, Shadow Elite Museum, David Ikes connects the Grand Canyon discovery with the reptilian overlords in one of his books. Now, in Smithsonian's, out of Smithsonian records, there's no record of Kincaid or Jordan within the Smithsonian's Department of Anthropology, nor is there a paper trail detailing the artifacts. When asked directly about Kincaid's claims, the Smithsonian Institute representative once said, "The first thing that I can tell you before we go any further is that no Egyptian artifacts of any kind have ever been found in North or South America. Therefore, I can tell you that the Smithsonian Institute has never been involved in any such excavations." Now, according to the conspiracy theorists, the Smithsonian Institute went so far as to destroy the artifacts to maintain historical. Okay. Although the Smithsonian did admit to gathering up giant skulls, that's on record. There's a lot of evidence to say that there was a colony in the Grand Canyon. When I go out, which is coming up, I'll show you where I'm going here in a minute. But when I go, it's going to be, I'm looking for where they had the chariot races. Now, if Romans were there, they had chariots. If they had chariots, they are not the type that are going to just sit around and look at them. They're going to go out there and they're going to race those bastards. And I bet you pieces come off them. So I'm going to be looking for some of that when I go out. Alright, so anyway, Kincaid and Jordan returned without artifacts or pictures of the findings, leaving this article as the sole evidence. Okay, Then the March 12th article in the Arizona Gazette notes that Kincaid is in Yuma, Arizona. He's an avid photographer who carries high-end photography equipment. Let's see, but he never did any of that. It is possible that Kincaid, if he existed, worked under a false name. Yeah, he's looking for gold. Theodore Roosevelt made the extraction of gold from the Grand Canyon illegal in 1908 when he deemed the canyon a national forest. Wow. All in all, they think it was an attempt to drive up sales of a newspaper. However, we're about to look at some things coming up that kind of defy that. But we have found the place of emergence for the Hopi Indians, and that is supposedly the Kincaid Cave. The Powell Cave is further down, although it could have been inhabited by similar people. So anyway, let's take a look at the topography and some other pictures. Well, this is, I'll discuss this. Kincaids Cave. It's also known as the it's also known as the Emergence, where they came from, with the Hopis, and a couple other tribes say they came out of the ground. It's in Marble Canyon, and if you look closer here as we come up, you can see there's a carved effigy there, right in the general area there. There's actually 3 of them if you look. Very, very weather worn, very, very beat up. It's It's some rough terrain. It is about 1,500 feet from the floor, but you can climb that. It takes some doing, but you can. So here is a little, what it looks like from a distance, and as you can see, there's a looks like a runoff right into the river, the Colorado there. So about halfway up the rock face, obviously it was a lot easier to get to in Kincaid's time, even though he said it was very hard to get there in the first place. Heard a rumor that there's a lone soldier that stands at the gate of this thing, but I don't believe it. So this is down river where you can see where they had other buildings. I'm going to be, when I get out there, I'm not going to concentrate on those areas. I'm going to think about where they would go in their off time. I mean, they're not going to stay in that cave all the time. So after they came out, there must have been some movement and some things like that. Here's some more. You can see a definite, this is on the edge of the Colorado, downstream from the cave. You can see where most of the general population seems to have built structures. You can see the outlines to the right, and then there's a round one to the left. This is not natural river formations, guys. This is these are foundations of some sort. Okay, so moving on, we'll switch over to this picture here. Well, it's basically the same picture, but pointing out a couple of spots to check out. Definitely get on Google Earth, do your own investigation on Marble Canyon. Crap, I don't have the exact coordinates right here. Well, I screwed up on that. So anyway, find it. It's out there, and there are records of the coordinates somewhere. Okay, so there's another location there. If they had chariots and all that stuff at the other cave, the Powell cave, they had the chariots, and this one here is full of mummies and Asian type artifacts. So it's probably Toltec, Toltec, I'm sorry, because they had a lot of that stuff. Now down the canyon a ways on the side, you'll see this white thing in the middle there, which is the Indian or the Native American symbol for a grain bag. It may have been indicating where the food growth was happening, or I don't know what that meant, but I guess somebody knows. Okay, so here's the confluence. The item of interest is below us, to the kind of to the right and straight down the side of the cliff. But this is the basic area where these things are all found, and it makes sense that there would be something in this area, just for military purposes and for water supply, food, the whole works. So there you have it. That's the Hopi place of emergence. The actual intersection between the Grand Canyon and Marble Canyon is 3.5 miles, as you can see there. Some very, very rugged terrain. My idea is to go to the top of this and maybe even metal detect up there. I think there's going to be some things found that we don't expect. So that's it.
Okay, folks,
have a great day,
sums
folks.
up another edition of The Slice with your host, Bill Peters, contributing to this wonderful episode were several of you in the Ancient Alien Theory group. I'd like to thank you all. And don't forget, check out the real MJ12 eyes-to-the-sky.com. That's right. And Happy Vowels will take you on a journey that you won't soon forget. Don't forget it. Kimberly Wright and her every Friday during the Ancient Alien Show. She has her live chat. And Clarence Mitchell at his Blog Talk Radio. Check it out, folks. See you next time on The Slice.